Hello, this is R Rats with Team 4545 League, analyzing the game between Ramrock and Try Anything. This was played in the last round of the playoffs in the under 1800s section, and I neglected to make a video of it yesterday. I did see part of it while it was being played, and with all the videos I made yesterday, I let this one slip by, so let's get it going. Essentially, Black was in a forced to be in a must-win situation. His team was down 0-2, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So, true to his name, he does try anything and plays the Schliemann defense. And I don't know how well most of you know the Schliemann. A well-prepared player should do fine against it. But for playing for a win, it's certainly an excellent opening to select. And I don't know all the theory. I know some of the main lines, but I know if White's prepared, he can come out with at least an even game and possibly keep his advantage of the first move. But there's a lot of ways for White to go wrong, and since White just needs a draw here, maybe it explains his opening choice, D3. And in my time and long chess career, I have had the Schliemann played against me a few times, and I recall when I was rated in the low 1800s playing a master, and I played 4d3 and just got picked clean really quick. I don't know what happened exactly, what the variation was, but I do remember that much. Let's just have a look what goes on. Okay. So one drawback for Black is that the king could be exposed on g8 to a check, or White might have an option of putting the bishop back on that square to keep Black from castling. But at the same time, Black has a half-open f-file to operate on, and the rest of his pieces will get developed quickly. So it's at least an even game at this stage. Okay, so let's have a look. And I guess White defends with the queen, doesn't want to step into a pin with knight c3 and bishop b4. And Black does exactly what he's supposed to do, starts getting his pieces out, which is good. And here it's a mistake to castle because there's a tactic. Stop the video if you want to try to find it. Okay, if you foresaw castles, you can see that Queen c4 check is kind of painful for Black, so Black's got to deal with that before he can castle. So d6. And here one might think, well, why not just play bishop c4? Okay, why not? Well, if Black wants, he can chase that bishop with knight a5, but that's kind of putting the knight out on the edge. But you'll drive him off the diagonal or exchange it. Of course, another viable plan is simply to proceed with queen e7, and then you have the option of then going into bishop e6, and you can castle either side. So since Black is getting developed here, he certainly is fine. He can get away with little strategies like that. At the moment, if you look at this position by itself, the fact that White took a tempo stopping Black from castling has caused his queenside development to lack. So when you consider a move like bishop c4, you have to take all the other aspects into play and value them accordingly. So I believe White makes the correct choice and simply just develops a piece. And now Black's able to castle, which is fine. He's doing just fine, and development's just about even. So I would say, from a psychological point of view, Black has won the opening. He surprised White with the Schliemann, got White out of any main line he might have wanted to play, and has found free and easy development for his pieces. So good job by Black so far. Okay, now comes the check, and it's okay to give the check. It sticks the king way off in the corner. So it doesn't really cost a tempo. White may consider now trying to make some left for that bishop if he wants to preserve it against a potential knight a5. And that's what White does. And this c3 is a good move. It serves a double purpose. Not only does it preserve a space for the bishop, although it does have d3. Like for instance, knight a5. Well, you can do it this way. Well, that's not a check. If you come back here, you don't have it, but you come back here and then you've got a threat. Anyway, forget knight a5. The purpose of c3 is not so much to create lift, is to keep the white knight out of d4, which might be very possible if black gets bishop g4 in. Just to give you an example, let's play a bad move by white here. Let's just play knight c3. Well, then black goes here, bishop g4. Now it's true white can do his knight d5, but black's a little more effective. Let's just give an example. The error, knight f3. I'm sorry, h3. There comes knight d4, and black is doing great here. Queen's got to move somewhere. Let's put it on. Gotta be careful. Let's put it on d1. Now we can check and then pick up a pawn and then break the pin, and black's practically winning here. Okay, so just to show you some pitfalls you can fall into if you're not careful. So c3 is a great move by white, but it kind of hands it back to black now. He can develop his bishop and almost be, and he's almost even in development because the black queen isn't developed yet. Okay, so let's see what black does. Okay, he played a5. I guess this is, he doesn't want b4 to bother him. I don't know. It's maybe not the move I would play, but it's perfectly acceptable. Let's see. Let's just look at an alternative. Bishop g4. Probably white doesn't want to play h3, but we just go back, and then the idea is to plant it on g6 and have some counterplay on that pawn. Now, assuming white doesn't play h3, helping black go where he wants to go and just plays b5, well, where are you going to go? Well, you're going to go back here. Now what's going to happen? If white pushes b4, the knight just starts heading over the king side where you want it. And if white plays a4, black has a choice of either a6 or even a5. So, not entirely sold on a5, but it's not a bad move. Okay. And now this actually develops the queen, because now the queen's getting ready to come into play on that diagonal of e8 to h5. Okay, but the one thing wrong with the black position is this bishop still hasn't moved. Now, if anyone who follows my YouTube channel has noticed the lessons I'm giving, they're titled Lesson 001 all the way up through 004. Those 4 are published. The first one basically teaches you how to be a better chess player, or teach yourself how to do it. There's an exchange on the king 3 square, or e3 in this case. It was e6 in the other game, and it had to do where I was speaking about thinking deficiencies, and it's something I learned years ago from one of my own games. White to play and do the best he can. Stop the video. Okay, you're back. What I illustrate in that lesson 001 is, in some cases it's better to take with the pawn on this square, and the main reason is to keep black, in this case, out of that square with a knight. Okay, that's the main idea behind it, but we have this instinct not to play this move because it doubles pawns. So white plays just nonchalantly queen e3, and this is becomes an option that black can play. So something to think about. You might want to find that lesson. It's on my blog, at ICC. Look at my finger notes, and the blog link is there, and it'll take you right to lesson 001. It's all free. I do this for the love of the game. Okay, so move on. As it turns out, black actually never tries to get the knight into f4, but that's all right, and it's kind of funny, white actually does. One of the drawbacks, I didn't mention it, with playing f takes e3 is e4 may be a little loose. The bishop can still come out to g4 and back to h5 and g3, as pointed out earlier, and put some pressure, but white's got plenty of time to cover e4 and do things he'd like to do. So far, it's an interesting game. Black is doing fine. He may have missed his chance, like I say, to try for the knight h5 f4 strategy, but that's okay. We can't always get everything we want, and I guess this is where the blunder comes in. Knight f5 was an error, and it just walked into a little tactic, and I'm not going to analyze knight takes g7 to see if white can start doing desperado things, or knight takes d6. Well, no, knight takes d6 just flat out loses to the knight recaptures, but in effect what this is doing is winning black a pawn, and now the question is how to consolidate and win with the extra pawn. So looks like a great game for black right now. And here I was watching the game at this point. I made a suggestion which wasn't entirely accurate. What white played, well, not yet. What white played, or black played here, was rook f7. The idea is to secure c7 down. And I was what I was suggesting was rook f4. And then that kind of makes white commit to b3. Then the idea was to get the knight into d4. And I think I was suggesting it in the whispers with knight f5, but that's rather an error because white has some resources. My intended follow-up was to go here, but I think in this case black can take here. I don't quite remember it all, but I think if instead of going to f5, if you just go to c6, it makes some kind of a difference, and I'll leave that to the players of this game to figure out. And then you're gonna move on in. Anyway, it's not important. What black played was fine. It just may look a little slower or seem a little slower, but his moves were fine. Okay, now that this has a threat, the threat is knight e3, and obviously black can't or white can't retake, so you can still do it. Now the knight goes back, so it didn't really gain anything there. But now he finds the right square, and probably white should take simply because that's a pass pawn. But who wants to? That just invites a rook down to the 7th rank with a threat on another pawn, and it's gruesome. You're still down a pawn, and now the opponent's in on the 7th rank. It's kind of which evil do you want to befall you more? So white declines the chance, and black just secures his pass pawn, and white has a 3-on-2 king pawn majority here, but he's really not going to be able to utilize it, and eventually black will get d5 in and end up with a 4-on-2 pawn majority. So it's just a matter of careful play to bring home the point, and white sees an open file, or black sees an open file and seizes it. That's good. Cut off the back rank mates. Okay, so it's a little slow play by black, but that's fine. He's in no hurry. He's got plenty of time on his clock, and it's just routine from here on in. Eventually black's going to find a way to crack through, and this kind of helps him because now he's prepared to play rook e7 and offer a rook trade. And that's exactly what he does. And for white to have drawing chances, he probably needs both rooks on the board. Okay, so unfortunately they're gone. They were forced to be off, and now we've clarified the 4-on-2 pawn majority is down to 2-on-0. I guess it was originally 5-3, but we've managed to do that where white still doesn't have a pass pawn with his pawn majority. So this is just fine for black. Very, very easy to win from here. Check, put your back, and go over and attack a pawn. And white can probably safely resign at this point, but he just lets the game go, and it was gone anyway. Rook check, and very good job by black to win a game he had to win. And the postscript to this is the game I already posted where Slime Dog 2 won against Cow Cow in a very interesting game. And now these teams get to play again next week, and each of the 4 games in this match were really fascinating. So I can't wait to see what these players give us next week, because I'm going to do this again. All right, thank you so much for your time, and I got to make another video. We had another result today. Take care.